Are you feeling it? Butterflies are on and in everything to do with junk journaling. So I'm going to show you how to make these butterfly embellishments. If you have an electronic cutter, go grab the SVG cut file from my website, and if you are hand cutting, there's a PDF for you. The first thing you've got to do is cut out your butterflies. I'm using my scan and cut and a cream cardstock. This is approximately 250 GSM. And you can use whatever color you want. You can use white, you can use blue. It depends on the color and the coverage you do on your butterfly. This is optional. You can glue two blank butterflies together to make your butterfly a little bit thicker. I've got one here, a single layer, and one a double layer. All I do is get my Barely Art glue, put it on one of the butterflies and sit another one on top. I make sure they're all lined up, and then I get my bone folder and press it down nice and flat. This one here curled up. It was the only one out of all of them that I made that curled. I don't know why, so I glued it to another blank butterfly and that fixed it. Now we're going to get ready to do heat embossing. I'm using Versamark watermark stamp pad. So I pat it all over one side, and then I'm going to leave it sitting on this pad while I get my embossing powder ready. I'm going to use 3 colours on this butterfly. My first colour is pink, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on this blank sheet of paper. I'm going to put the green down right beside it, and then some lily-pilly purple. Now, if you're an experienced embosser, you'll be thinking, what on earth are you doing here? You're going to have all these colours mixed together. Yeah, I know. It's intentional. I bring in a clean piece of paper to sit my butterfly on. Now here's a tip. Avoid using your finger to lift your butterfly. You could risk removing a little bit of that sticky ink off your butterfly, so use a pin. Once you've moved it off your ink pad, only pick it up from the sides. Do not put your fingers on your sticky side of the butterfly. Drop it down on your clean sheet of paper and get your embossing powder sheet of paper and fold it in half into a funnel. I'm tapping my embossing powder and I'm directing it where I want it to go on the butterfly. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm sprinkling the embossing powder only on the center of my butterfly, and I'm leaving the edges uncovered. Now I'm going to put this leftover embossing powder aside, and I'm getting out a Queen's Gold. This is Ranger Queen's Gold. I've got a little spatula here, and I'm just going to sprinkle this gold all the way around the edge of the butterfly. Now another tip, do not be tempted to pick your butterfly up with your fingers. Grab a pin again and keep your fingers right on the edge of your butterfly. Now here you want to tap off the excess powder. Don't go tapping off too much or you'll have a bald butterfly. Move away your drop sheet. Now just put your butterfly down somewhere that's going to be able to handle heat. I've got a pin again to hold my butterfly down. I'm not piercing it through the cardstock, I'm just holding it, and I'm using a heat gun, and I'm going to melt the powder now with the heat gun. Now you watch this butterfly transform. The Queen's Gold looks like nothing until it starts to melt. Now look at how beautiful it is. Even the purple, that lily-pilly purple, it gets brighter. And the gold just looks beautiful. If you're using a different gold, you might not get this result. I've used different golds and it doesn't turn out quite like this Ranger Queen's Gold. Again, lift it up with your pin and don't touch the top. Only use your fingers at the sides of your butterfly. And doesn't it look beautiful? I'm just going to leave this to cool down, and I'm going to show you how I can now go back and use my leftover mixed up embossing powder. I've added a little bit more of the pink and the green to this, and I've got some gold mixed in with this, because remember I tapped the gold off in with this mix as well. So it's pink, green, purple with a bit of gold in it. So that's in the center of the butterfly, and I'm adding the Queen's Gold around the edge. I'm going to tap it off again, not too much. I want a lot of color on this butterfly, and I'm heat setting it again. This time, because there's gold mixed in with the purple, green and pink, it's going to be a predominantly gold butterfly, just with a few specks of other color on the inside. So when you mix all your colors together and you catch them on your drop sheet, it's not wasted. You can come back and use it on as many butterflies as you want. Now I'm going to leave them to cool down and show you how I do just the edges of the butterfly. I'm using the clear embossing ink from 𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 dauber that's on the bottle and I press it down onto my acrylic block and it leaves a little pool of liquid. So I just get my paintbrush and I scrape it on the side of the butterfly. I go halfway around the butterfly and then I come back and sprinkle some white embossing powder on that edge. Then I will come back and paint the other half and sprinkle some more white embossing powder on the remaining half, and then I'll heat set. So whatever colour cardstock you use for your butterfly is what you'll have for your embellishment. I've used cream here because I wanted to put this in a lacy junk journal. So now that my other butterflies have cooled down, I can come back and emboss on top of embossing using this liquid embossing ink. So I've got my paintbrush again and I've just painted on some big circles on top of my butterfly, and I've sprinkled the white embossing powder over the top and heat set them, and now I've got some pretty butterfly dots on top of my gold, mostly gold butterfly. So now I'm going to use a colour combo. I'm using green, blue and white, this time with no gold. And I just sprinkled it on where I wanted those colours to show on the butterfly and heat set it. And depending on what brand embossing powder you use, some melt and move around more than others. And you'll know what I mean if you've used embossing powders before. This one, they melted into each other really nicely. So now we've coloured our butterflies, we've got to make some antennas. The easiest way I made my antennas was using this DMC cotton pearl. It's like an embroidery or a crochet thread in size number 5, and I'm using black. I'm going to tie an overhand knot. I just call it a normal knot. So once you've tied your knot in the end, pull that knot nice and tight. Then cut that tail off right at the knot. You don't want any tail left over at all. And then cut your antenna off around about 1 inch long. And then do the same again, because you'll want 2 antennas per butterfly. Now you've got the sweetest little pair of antennas. Now to put it on your butterfly is just as easy. I'm using the Barely Art glue. I put a generous amount on the head and halfway down the body. You can do it 2 ways. You can pick the butterfly up and press it down on top of your antenna and push them into the glue. You can just move them around until they're facing where you want them, or you can put your glue on and then add your antenna to the glue. You'll get the same result. And this one looks beautiful. It's mostly that Queen's Gold again with blue and white. It really does change them when you add the antenna to them. It's optional whether you add a black body on your butterfly. I'm going to leave mine plain until I decide what to do with them. This is a beautiful way to add butterflies to your junk journal. I even made some Christmas trees using this method, and they turned out beautiful.